Hello, friends. It's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another educational tarot video. So, today, what I wanted to talk about was astrology and also how it corresponds to the tarot cards. Now, I do love this deck because it does have a lot of those extras on the cards, as I've talked about in previous videos. If you guys have seen me, this deck is I think it's a fantastic learning tool for those that are maybe new to tarot or maybe wanting to kind of make their tarot practice a little bit more in depth. So when I'm talking about astrology, I know for those people that maybe don't feel very well versed, I love that this deck has that inclusion of trying to teach you what the planets look like, their symbols or their glyphs, their astrological glyphs. And so here we have a little explanation of what each of the planets means, and then also the zodiac signs and their typical dates when the sun is in those signs, so to speak. So if you're not super familiar with the astrological signs, there's 12 of them in Western astrology. And so this deck is going to really focus on those 12 signs as well as the different planets and even talking about Chiron and so forth, which is more of like a point in the universe or like an asteroid actually. So it can really help you understand what those planets mean and kind of how to utilize that as an extra layer. So if you are someone who's into utilizing astrology for their own kind of workings, it's very helpful to kind of see that energy through that card. And the reason why I like to add astrology into my practice of tarot is that I think it really does help us understand maybe some of the layers, maybe some of the people that are showing up in the readings, and so forth and so on, as well as maybe even significant points of time throughout the year to maybe keep in mind when these cards are showing up. So if I'm looking at a situation that may happen in the future and I were to receive like the Ace of Cups as my future position for a spread, I would think, okay, maybe something will happen during Cancer season if like that's the next thing that's coming up. So we're currently in Cancer season. So if I'm looking for the future, then I'd be like, okay, maybe something will happen during Scorpio season or during Pisces season. So I would definitely keep that kind of energy in mind. And if I'm like, well, I don't know when Scorpio season is. So Scorpio season is between October 23rd through November 21st. And Pisces season is between February 19th and March 20th. So I would kind of keep those dates in mind. Now, the other thing is I like that this deck has all of those planetary associations and some the astrological sign as well. So here, for those of you that are not well versed in astrological glyphs, this is actually the glyph for Mercury, and this is the symbol or the glyph for Virgo. So here we kind of have this understanding that maybe something significant will happen when Mercury is in the sign of Virgo, or maybe this is a reminder to be a little bit more mindful of our energy, to be aware of like the mental energy that we're expending. Maybe we need to be mindful of the words that we're using, as well as being a little bit more Virgo-esque in how we communicate and being very impeccable with like how we're showing up. So because I understand astrology, I can also utilize that as another layer and depth to my readings. So when we're thinking of what this means overall, especially with the major cards, those are going to be a little bit easier to understand because they only typically have one association with them. So the High Priestess is representative or represented by the moon, so to speak. And if you understand how the moon works in astrology, the moon is typically our emotions. And so it's our feelings, it's our instincts. Those are two words that we would associate with the High Priestess. But the other thing with the moon is because the moon changes signs every 2.5 to 3 days, to me, it really talks about it's not going to be the most steady in the sense of it's not going to be something that is like rock solid, like something that would be in Taurus or in Virgo or in Capricorn, one of the earth signs. So to me, this can really talk about maybe our moods are constantly fluctuating, which is a thing that comes up with the High Priestess. So it's very much about understanding how those two things speak to one another. So with the major cards, it's interesting because some of them have planetary influences and some of them are going to have like symbolic or astrological signs associated with them. I'm trying to find a major card here that has the actual... I'm looking, you guys. So here we have Mercury. I'm finding all of the planets versus like, okay, so here, even though this does have the symbol for Chiron, I would just kind of ignore that. When we think of the Hermit, this is the card for Virgo. So if someone is wondering what's going on in their life, whatever, and I pull the Hermit, and I'm like, oh, do you have Virgo in your big three, or are you a Virgo? And more than likely, they either have some sort of association with the Hermit in some way, or they may also be a Virgo. So I feel like doing a tarot reading is very much like investigating in some way and trying to kind of divine a deeper meaning in some way, shape, or form. So here we have Venus, and then this is also Venus and Taurus for the Empress. But I also just like to kind of associate just Venus with the Empress because Venus is all about our physical existence. It's our values. It's, our relationships and connections. It's like abundance in a lot of different aspects of our lives, which are key themes that come up with the Empress. I'm trying to think of other signs. And then we also kind of add in the astrological elements, so for cups are going to be water. So they're going to be associated and connected to the water signs, which are going to be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. If we think of the pentacles, this is going to be the earth sign. So this is going to really focus on Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. If we're thinking of the wands are fire. So they're going to be really focused on Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And as you can see through some of these cards, it's like the symbols are going to be, here we have Saturn and Leo. Here we have the Sun and Aries for these cards. So the entire suit will relate back to that symbolism. So the Order of the Golden Dawn tradition is the ones that really started doing the astrological influences on the cards. But the reason why I like to use it, even though I don't really follow the Golden Dawn tradition, is I think it's very interesting to kind of add that extra layer to your readings and also your understanding of how these cards work. I didn't mention the swords. Sorry, the swords are going to be the air cards. They're going to be air. And so they will talk about the air signs. So this will be Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius to kind of round out the rest of the different suits. And the reason why I like to add in an astrological kind of element to my readings is I feel that it can really help us understand maybe other things that may be affecting our reading, that maybe that'll be a significant time period. So if I'm pulling like the Emperor card is all about Aries. So I'm like, maybe something happened during Aries season, or maybe the person needs to speak with someone who is in Aries that can kind of help them redirect that energy. The Hierophant is represented by the Hierophant. Gemini is going to be the Lovers. Cancer is the Chariot. And then we have Leo as Strength. We have the Hermit to represent Virgo. We have Libra is represented by the card Justice. Scorpio is Death. And it kind of makes sense when you start to kind of look at the astrological influences as well and how they relate back to the things that are connected the most with each of those individual cards. For Sagittarius, we have Temperance. For Capricorn, we have the Devil. For Aquarius, it's the Star. For Pisces, we have the Moon. And if we're talking about just like the planets, I mean, Mercury is going to be signified by the Magician. The Moon is the High Priestess. Venus is the Empress. Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. Mars is going to be the Tower. The Sun is going to be the Sun. Saturn is going to be the World. Uranus is usually represented by the Fool, which I really do like that energy. Neptune is going to be the Hanged Man. Pluto is going to be Judgment. So we see how all of those elements and all of those cards kind of play into each other. And to me, it is very much another layer to add into your readings if you are wanting to kind of have a better understanding as to like some of the timing. Now, when I think of timing, if I have a lot of like, let's say I'm pulling a lot of Cups cards, I would definitely be mindful of the timing for these cards to represent either the season that I feel the most connected to for this suit. So for me, I feel like Cups are very much spring. So I would look at, what is this kind of telling me? If the last card I'm pulling is the King of Cups, I'd say maybe something will be happening the very last week of spring, right before the summer solstice. So I would definitely play around and figure out how the cards are speaking to you, or maybe really recognizing how those different elemental aspects are playing with the cards and what it is that it means for you. And maybe looking at your situation and seeing, okay, like for me, I usually pull a lot of Pentacles cards because I am someone that has a Taurus stellium. So I have a lot of planets that are in Taurus. So sometimes when I'm doing my own personal readings for myself, there's a lot of Pentacles cards that come up. And I feel like that is very representative of a lot of the energy that I feel that I'm constantly working with. The other thing is that the court cards can also talk about timing during specific time periods. So you can kind of look up different charts for that to see what feels right for you. I always tell people, I'm like, there is really like no right or wrong way to read tarot. I don't feel like there is anything that is going to be like, oh, that's not how you should do it. I feel like your tarot practice is yours and it's something that's very personal and everyone does it a little bit different. So find what works for you and don't feel like you have to be tied to one way of doing it or that one person knows all of the answers for everything. I mean, there are people that are very, very well educated in tarot that know a lot more than I do and have a much better way of explaining things. But as someone that has been using tarot for the last 25 years, I feel like it's a beautiful tool for anyone to use in their toolkit. And I think it's a wonderful way for you to kind of discover how your intuitive voice really speaks to you. So let me know what you guys think about tarot and astrology and if you currently use it. I know astrology can feel like a completely different language, a little bit foreign, a little bit confusing. But I hope that by talking about all of the different things that I've already talked about so far, that this is just maybe adding an extra little layer to kind of maybe explore or to look into and to feel a little bit more comfortable with this energy as it shows up. So have a good one. Take care. Stay safe. And as always, make good choices. Bye.